Hey guys, it's Kate. Welcome back to another episode of Girl Talk. So in today's episode, I have a lot of guests. The series was kind of made with the intention of having one girl per episode, but I felt like this topic that we're kind of going to discuss in this video needed more than just one voice. So I did a little bit of research and I got some really amazing, influential, successful Black women on the show, the series, to talk about kind of what's been going on in our country recently. I've been getting a lot of requests for the past few weeks to kind of just discuss the state of our nation, what's been going on in regards to racism, the riots, the church's response, what we can do, things like that. I have noticed that a lot of churches and a lot of youth groups have made videos specifically. I know that UPCI Youth Ministries did do a video, as well as I know that Bishop Bernard did do a video with a panel of different pastors and leaders talking about this topic. But I felt that it was important to kind of discuss what's been going on with women. We don't hear from women a lot in regards to certain situations, and I felt like it was really important to represent those voices. So in this video, I have a lot of different women from different states, different backgrounds, different careers, all that kind of stuff, just to kind of give their opinions and to talk about kind of what's been going on. I didn't feel like just me talking about it would be enough. So I wanted to make sure that I got some girls on here to discuss it with me and just kind of have a conversation with you guys. So, we want to keep the conversation going. Use the comment section to talk about what's going on, your opinions on the video. We want to try to keep this as a positive environment, but I know, with issues like this, it is sensitive. So I just want to encourage you to have wisdom before you comment or before you post something, before you just say something that could be taken as hurtful. But I hope that in this video, you will learn more and you will take what you've learned in this video with you into your everyday life. And I just hope that this video impacts you in the way that it impacted me while I was filming it. And I want to thank all of the amazing women that were in this video for being a part of it. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. And I hope that we can keep the conversation going. So let's just get into it.
I'm here with some amazing guests for my new series on this channel called Girl Talk. My last video with Kristen Hicks had a lot of really positive comments and feedback. So that was really exciting. And I just want to thank you guys so much for all of your comments. But in wake of what's been going on in our country, I've been getting a lot of messages just asking me to kind of talk about what's been going on. And I didn't really want to do it alone just because I didn't think it was my place. So I wanted to get some amazing girls on here that can kind of talk about their experiences, and I'll just be learning along with the rest of you. And so I hope that in this video, we can spread positivity and love, and you can also get some new women to look up to, some new role models, maybe some new music, and some new small businesses to support. So with that being said, I would like to introduce you guys to my guests.
Hi everyone, my name is Violet. I am 27 years old. I live in the state of Connecticut. We've been here for about 7 years now, but we actually grew up in Maryland, and we live in Maryland for most of our lives. So about me, last year I graduated and earned my degree, my master's degree, and I will be a 4th grade teacher in the fall. I am in a singing group with my siblings. There's 4 of us, and we just released new music today. So if you'd like to go out and get that, you can get that today. It's called All I See Is Victory. I also do graphic design on the side. I'm self-taught. I've been doing that for about 6 years now. So I guess that's all about me that I want to talk about right now. Cool.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm her sister. I'm 23 years old. I also live in Connecticut, and a lot of the things she said applies to me too, so I won't repeat. But I am a daycare teacher. I've been working in daycare since I was 16. So, and I'm 23 now. So I'm in school pursuing my degree in child studies, a bachelor's degree in child studies. And yeah, we're both PKs. Our dad is a pastor, pastors a church here in Connecticut. And yeah, I think that's all.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lita Lynn Casimir. I am from Atlanta and Tampa. I got two homes. I live in Tampa now. I'm the youth director at Bethel Church in Tampa, Florida. I graduated from Florida State University, bachelor's in sacred music and music entrepreneurship. And from that, I've launched my own business, World Changer Studios, where I help people and train people in voice singing. I love music and I love the youth, so I'm really excited about this. I'm also a recording artist. I recently released my last single in March called Unshakable Faith. So check it out, and I'm just glad to be here. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariah. I am 21 years old. I am from Detroit, Michigan, but I spend a bulk of my time in St. Louis, where I'm in school, pursuing my bachelor in music with a piano concentration. I am not as cool as everybody else you just heard about. I don't have a single. I'm actually scared to sing in front of people unless the Spirit of God is like heavily moving. But I could just say, go check out my college. Urshan is doing some great things. We just released a Spanish EP that is absolutely amazing. And keep up with us as we go throughout the next year. And I'm super excited to be here with all these wonderful ladies today.
I'm Micah, and I'm also from the Metro Detroit area. I also really like music. I studied music in university. I ended up not doing it as a major, but I took voice lessons throughout the whole way. I play instruments. I write music. I have a single out that I released it like 2 years ago. It's been a while, but I love music. I just graduated with a bachelor's in women's health studies. I want to be a midwife, and I think that I just really want to help Black women really do a lot, have better outcomes when it comes to their birth, because they experience complications and mortality 3 to 4 times higher than white women. So there's clear health disparities that exist, and I just want to do what I can to help that improve and help Black women not die and their babies not die. It's really sad what's happening. I also just launched a new business. It's a pastry business. It's called Dolce, and I'm currently doing macarons, but I also do cookies, and I made a cake yesterday and it turned out fine, surprisingly. But I'm currently working on expanding my menu. So that's a really exciting thing that's been going on lately in my life. So yeah.
My name is Deanna. I'm 21. I work at Quicken Loans, trying to start my little career there. Got an apartment back in March, so I've been trying to decorate, do stuff here and there. It's coming together though. I like to shop, drink coffee. Who does it? What else? I mean, that's about it. Hang out with some girls when I got the time, but my life's not that interesting like everyone else's.
My name is India. I'm 23 years old. I'm currently going to school to be a math teacher. I'm going to be going into CLC in the fall. I like to sing. I like to post on Instagram. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I am Asia. I'm 25 years old. I live in Houston, Texas. I have my own photography business, and I'm also working at a tax business right now. And I'm also going to college to be a kindergarten teacher. So I have a lot of things going on right now. I love making coffee. I love hanging out with friends. I love going to church. I love online shopping. I am recently recovering from the coronavirus, so I'm happy about that. I'm feeling really good. But yes, that's me.
Awesome. Well, I think it's so cool that everybody kind of has like music in common, and a lot of us are kind of working with children or like on a line that's kind of similar. I'm also in school for education, so I just thought that that was really cool when I was meeting all these girls, that we kind of all are connected through music or through our careers. So yeah, I think that's super cool. So today I just kind of wanted to have an open conversation with these ladies kind of about just kind of the unrest that's in our nation right now. You know, it's unfortunate that we kind of have to address these things in this country. And obviously it's not, you know, fun, but I think that it's important that people learn and we can kind of get over this hump, hopefully in this next generation. And we don't have to keep dealing with the same issues that our grandparents and our parents are dealing with. You know, hopefully this can be the generation that finally facilitates a change. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about racism and prejudice, things like that happen in this country that are very unfortunate. And I trust that these women will, you know, teach us something and help us to kind of do better. So the first thing we kind of wanted to talk about was just like experiences with racism or with people kind of like profiling based on your race. So whoever wanted to kind of get that ball rolling, I would love to hear kind of your experiences with that.
Well, I can't say that I've necessarily been racially profiled, except for one time in high school. My older brother and I, we went to this convenience shop after school just to get some snacks. The store owner, he wasn't white, but he was, I want to say, Pakistani or something like that. But we were, you know, getting our snacks, and we see like he's watching us. And then we notice, like, as we're going through the aisles, he starts following us. And I'm like, let's get out of here, because obviously we're not wanted. I guess before he had some kids that were stealing, and I'm guessing they were Black kids. So he felt as though that we would take something without paying. So I would say that's the only time I've personally been racially profiled. I don't know if you have been.
Not any experiences that I can say were like specifically racially profiling. So,
well, a similar thing actually happened to my, I was up north in Michigan with my dad, my brother, and my brother's best friend. And if you know anything about Michigan, the further north you go, the less Black people there are, and it can tend to be a little bit, there can be like more racism prevalent in northern Michigan. So we were staying in this cabin, and we had to go to Dollar General to get some snacks and stuff, just so because you're going to like a national park with like sand dunes the next day, so we wanted to have snacks. It was going to be an all-day thing, so we wanted to get water, snacks, etc. And so we noticed that like the cashier was staring at us, and he was just like watching us. And then like maybe like 5 to 7 minutes later, there was a police car that comes up, and like the police guy just like comes into the store, and like he like starts following us, and he tried to make it not seem obvious, but it clearly was. Like, he was obviously following us. We were like the only people in the store. And my dad was like, I didn't really notice it, but he was like, and like eventually the police officer like went back in his car and drove away. But my dad was like, after that, he was like, did you guys notice that police officer? He was following us. Like, they called the police because we were in the store buying snacks, and he was watching us. And I was like, wow, it's just like so interesting that like the assumption was made that we were up to no good just because we're Black in this store. And I thought that was very interesting. That's kind of like the only experience I've had firsthand with profiling as well. So I haven't had too many experiences, but that was definitely one prevalent one that I've experienced.
I can't really pinpoint an exact, like, complete racially profiling. I do have 2 instances. Growing up, a lot of the hair stores, like the beauty supply stores, are ran by Asians, people of that descent. And I know a lot of the times when we would go to the store, like they would, hey, you need something? Or, like, they would be on you like every second, making sure you're not stealing. They'll follow you, you know, stuff like that would happen when I was younger. But I think the first time that I kind of, not really profiling, but I felt like something happened to me because of my race. I remember one time, I think I was like 16 or 15. Me and my sister were traveling from Atlanta back to Tampa. Or I think I was like 14 actually. Atlanta back to Tampa. And there's like this part of Florida where like it's a lot of like, there's no electricity. There's a lot of like, you know, kind of like Amish type lifestyle. And we were driving, and someone threw like stuff on our car, like on our windshield, for absolutely no reason. They like drove past us, like looked at us, and then threw a whole bunch of like trash on our car. And I remember like feeling like, oh my gosh, it's because I'm black. Why did they do that? You know, that's probably like the closest thing I felt like a hate was towards me for like my skin color.
I think for me, honestly, it wasn't until I got to college and started touring with the college that I ever experienced anything that resembled any type of like prejudice. And it was in, I think, Mississippi, which is so sad because it's like my favorite state. And it wasn't like necessarily outright like, oh my goodness, we don't like you because you're black, but like you could sense the uneasiness when our group took the platform, and it was me and I think about 2 other black girls that were with us, and they were just like, they were so uneasy. They were kind of like shut down. And there was another instance we traveled to a church to do a ministry trip, and they just like, their perception of having somebody of color on their platform just like, it just made me kind of sad because you could tell that they weren't as open to receiving because I was a person of color. So those are probably the only 2 instances I could think of as well where I've been racially prejudiced against, I guess.
I guess I kind of have. Previously, I was in a interracial relationship, and I guess maybe not everyone would take it as racism. I take it as racism, but I know there was a lot of people, not a lot, I shouldn't say. There was a few people who looked down upon that because I wasn't dating inside of my race. And I took that as racism, and that really hurt me, whether they meant it, even like comments that were made towards the relationship that were racist. So I've dealt with racism in that way. Can't really think of any other ways that I have, but that was for sure something that stood out in my mind.
I've pretty much gotten this all my life just from working different jobs and being in school and stuff. I've gotten the, oh, you talk white, oh, you don't act like a black person, stuff like that. And then I always question them, like, what is acting like a black person? Like, what does it mean to act like a black person? Like, I'm not like loud, ghetto, ratchet, don't got no nappy hair. Like, what does being black mean? Like, how am I not acting my race? I think I act my race. I mean, I can make collard greens. I can make baked macaroni and cheese. I can do all that type of stuff. I know how to play spades. I can hustle and shuffle. So it's just like, I was confused. Like, what does that mean? Like, how do I act white? Because, I don't know, I just have proper language. Like, so this is that kind of stuff, like, I've gotten all the time growing up. But I mean, of course, like, I don't want to say like it didn't faze me. Of course it did. But it's like, what can I do to stop it? Like, how is it going to stop? You know what I'm saying? Like, what can I do to prevent people from saying that kind of stuff? You can't really do nothing. You can't make nobody do nothing what they don't want to do. Period, point blank. Like, everybody gonna do whatever they want at the end of the day. So it's just like, just have to deal with it, you know?
For me, my first time ever experiencing racism, I think I was about in 2nd or 3rd grade. I had just moved from Florida to Pennsylvania with my family, and our neighbors, I had 2 neighbors on the side of me, and like, I've always like heard about, like, you know, racism, but it was just something I just heard about. So just being there, there was 2 white girls that lived on the side of me, and there was one girl, her parents just wouldn't allow her to play with me, and I just couldn't understand why. And my parents just always told me, like, you know, just stay away from her, it's fine, her parents. Until there was one day when like a situation had happened and all the parents were arguing because I found out that it was because I was black. It was because of the color of my skin. And from that moment on, it was the first time that I actually just was like, wow, like, so because I'm black, I'm not allowed to play with like your little girl. And that was the first time that I actually was hurt by it. And since then, just, I remember I would just be in the grocery stores and I would see like other like little girls walking around with their family, and I would just, I couldn't understand like what was so wrong with me. Like, why is it that I'm looked down upon? Why is it that, you know, that I'm not allowed to be talked to or played with? And just recently, during like I think I was 16 years old. Yeah, I moved in with my youth pastors, and I ended up getting adopted by them, and they're a white family. So I was able, like, during that time, I was like, okay, now I grew up, you know, living with like my black family, and now I'm living with, you know, white people, but it's still the same. Like, people still look at me for the color of my skin, my hair. We would go out and stuff, and we had someone ask if I was the nanny, watching their kids, and we like it just. I'm just like how like the color of someone's skin just assumes that you're a nanny because you're surrounded with white people or you're surrounded with people that don't look like you. So that was just pretty much like the highlights of like racism for me. And obviously just, I feel like something that a lot of Black girls go through is you're pretty for a Black girl and the hair thing. And especially in the church too, like I remember like during camps, I just always it's not, I won't say that it was just told to me that a specific thing happened, but I just always felt like I could never fit in with like the straight-haired white girls or that, especially in the church, because I feel like there's just, well, in Florida, I'll talk about Florida. There's a lot of, white apostolic guys that go to camp. You don't really see like a lot of like Black people there. So just going there, it's always just the thought like, oh, does he like Black girls? Oh, I don't want to this because I'm a Black girl. And it's like, why do we allow ourselves to think that way? And just because we're Black, that we're not allowed to, like someone, or someone's not allowed to like us because of the color of our skin. So that's just always been something for me, and just not feeling like I could be a part or fit into like this group of, like at camp and stuff. I'll speak for myself. It's taken me a while to like get to the place that I am now. So I would say like I wouldn't take all of that back. Yes, it's sad that it happened, but I feel like because I went through all of those different things, it just made me the person I am today, made me appreciate my skin and my hair, especially when it comes to my hair, because there was times when I would not walk out the door if my hair was not straightened. I would not go anywhere because I just didn't feel like I was beautiful with my hair, or even if I had braids or something, like I always just like wanted my hair in straight weave or my hair straightened or something, because I just didn't feel beautiful. And I would say the past couple years, it's taken me that time to just love myself, love me for who I am and how God made me, regardless of what anyone thinks, regardless if a guy thinks I'm cute or not, as long as I love myself and I'm happy with how I look. So it's taken me a while to get to that point, but I'm in a pretty happy place with how I feel about myself, regardless of what the world thinks of me. So
amen. Period. And that's on period. Like I said, it's really unfortunate that that's something that you still have to deal with in 2020. It's obviously devastating to hear about, and obviously like I can't say that I've dealt with that, but I'm fortunate to live in a state that's pretty diverse. My church is very multicultural, so it's not something that I have really ever seen outright either, but it is something that I've I think someone said it was kind of like a subtle thing, like you just kind of picked up on it. And for a while, I work in children's church. I've been working in children's church since I was like 13 years old. So it's been a really long time. And my church is located it's a very small town, but it's located about like 2 miles away from a city that is predominantly Black. So a lot of our children were Black children. There was a time where I think 2 of our kids were not Black and everybody else was. So our entire kids staff was Black except for myself. And that was completely normal to me. I went to a school that was very multicultural. I've always been to a church that was. So for me, that was never weird. It was always just, this is what happens in our city. But, I started to notice it at children's camp even, or at children's events, people not necessarily say anything, but, they just kind of look like, or, they make little comments like, oh, are those kids really sassy? I'm like, what? No, like they're really polite. What are you talking about? It's not necessarily outright, but it's very subtle. They kind of have these little ideas like, oh, are those girls just little divas? And I'm like, what? I didn't even realize what was happening until there was an event where I realized our kids were really the only children of color. And so everybody's like, oh, like, hey. And I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? And so kind of like early on, even as early as like 16, I kind of learned like I need to defend these kids and make sure that they're being treated correctly, because people, you know, they want to look at them a certain way, or they want to ask these questions that aren't really appropriate. And, you know, they're kids, they don't understand. So they're like, why are those girls looking at me like that? And I'm like, you know, I think it's because you're so beautiful. They were just caught off guard, and they're like, oh, okay. You know, like it hurt me because, you know, I watched these kids grow up, and I love them regardless of anything. And so it's sad that there's people in the world that don't have that same mindset, and they see, you know, someone that doesn't look like them, even if it's a child, and they're like, that's kind of weird, you know? So, you know, it is really sad. But I did want to talk about kind of the church's response in this time, because, you know, the UPCI Youth Ministries just had a conversation the other day, and I watched that. I know Bishop Bernard had a conversation, kind of more on like it was like a larger platform. I know a lot more people viewed that, which is really good. But I do think, you know, as Christians, we should definitely check out those conversations. You know, you don't have to watch those ones specifically if you don't want to. I know John Gray had a conversation with, I think it was Stephen Furtick, which was good as well. But there are a lot of conversations happening globally, not just in America, but with, you know, different pastors and different youth workers. And I think that that's so important, because this is a time where the church needs to be unified and presenting that unified front rather than, you know, perpetuating this problem. So I don't know, do any of you guys want to talk about that?
Growing up in the church, in the apostolic realm, I think that the church could do better on educating everyone, because as India was saying, she said in Florida that, I believe you said this, India, that it was majority or predominantly like white people and like having to go to camps. Okay, so it was the same way for me here in Texas, especially like in the very south of Texas. Majority of all the camps that we go to, all the conferences we go to, I am always the minority. There's never really any Black people. I don't want to say never, but very few. And I just feel like the church could do a better job of just educating a little bit more, and maybe not being so judgmental about different races. And like I had said in the past, like with interracial dating, making that appear as if it was a sin or something like that. Because I know I've also dealt with that here. Like I mentioned that before, that it was looked down upon, but some people can take it so far as if God doesn't agree with it. And that's where I think the line should be drawn, because it's not a sin at all. And we shouldn't be judged by being with someone else because of the color of our skin. But yes, I think educating and accepting more cultures inside the church would be a great thing that the church could do better.
Starting like young. Like I remember at camps, I'm just gonna keep talking about camps, but like they would do like hair tutorials, like, you know, the girl session. And it would always be like, okay, who has the long hair? Raise your hand. And I'm gonna, like, you know, you never see a Black girl up there or anyone trying to like teach us. I mean, we know how to do our hair, like, you know, but are some of those girls who just don't, like, you know, and you just never see like we're represented during those things. And it's just like, okay, so what about the Black girls with the curly hair? Like, you know, who's gonna, you know, represent us out there? And I would talk about, like, I would say like in Florida, growing up, that's how it's been, but I feel like they're kind of starting to incorporate, like, you know, more people of color, but I feel like there still could be more that's done.
I feel like the response for me, I am pleased with the response. I feel like UPC at least is getting ahead on it with, and I follow a lot of people, and I see a lot of things where people have, you know, attacked the UPC or attacked the church, or feel like this is the best opportunity to bring the church down. The church isn't doing anything about it. What is the church saying? And I feel like if we actually take a second to look, you'll see what the church is saying with the conversations, with leadership meetings in your own local church and things like that. I feel that sometimes society, the people, when we are really, you know, this is people, not just, you know, one color, everybody could get really like anxious and want to see a response that fits their criteria. But these things are really, really sensitive. And I feel that the way the church, the organization that we are a part of is going about it is careful, it's intentional, it's educated, and it's deliberate to not cause disunity. Shed light, but also don't give evil so much power. You know, I feel that, for example, the youth workers talk with James and Brother Carson and Brother Raymond Duncan was so good because it talked about things that, you know, they were really honest. They were really honest. And I felt like that's the kind of things that we need. Maybe they're not on their social media every day saying, stop killing them every day, stop killing them. And I'm not saying that that's wrong to say that, but they got to the root of things that we need to do, what the church, the view that the church maybe should have, some things that, some shifts we need to do so that we're not responding the same way that the world is responding. So with that being said, I feel like the church is trying to be really deliberate at responding how Jesus would want us to respond and not so emotionally heightened. And I can say that now, having calmed down, you know, because when everything first started happening, you get really like, well, something needs to be done, you know. But now that I've kind of come down a little bit, I can see the wisdom and how our organization has processed this, and how, you know, even coming from my own pastor, you know, or first off, I was just like, okay, well, I haven't really heard anything, but things sometimes take time to chew and then make a move. You don't need to react with the world every time. So for me, I feel like I'm getting what I need to know, that this church, the UPC, is on the side of righteousness, defends the oppressed, and I don't feel like anything is being swept under the rug. I feel like it's being, you know, the light is being shed on it. This is a sin, but the solution is still the same, like every other sin. You know, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I really enjoyed the youth ministries talk. I think they all spoke with a lot of wisdom, and you could tell that they really prayed and thought about it before. Because I think as humans, our first initial response is like, I'm going to go on social media and rant about it, you know, which isn't always a bad thing, you know, because you want to bring awareness. But I do think it's important to have wisdom before you're posting about you know, things that, you know, you can get fired up about. And it was definitely something here too that we were in Michigan, we were all like super fired up. You know, I believe we still have a lot of protests and stuff like that going on, but I think it's really cool that a lot of pastors have taken this time to address it from the pulpit, and they haven't just, you know, since it's not an issue here, we're not going to talk about it. They've really like stepped up, and youth pastors, and made sure that people know, like, this is our stance. This is God's stance. It is a sin, and we're not going to tolerate it. And so, yeah, I thought that was really, it gives you like hope, you know, that there's going to be a change in the future. So I wanted to also talk about, we were kind of talking about it just a few minutes ago, but kind of social media and how, you know, people have been using that as kind of a platform to talk about these issues. And they've kind of been I know a lot of people have been posting on it constantly, whereas some people haven't been posting at all. And so there's kind of this argument, if you don't post anything or if you stay silent, you're a part of the problem. Or if you're posting too much, you're, trying to act like you are super supportive. You're trying to act woke. There's like, it's really hard because if you post too much, you're going to get accused of maybe trying to make your image look good. Or if you don't post enough, it's like, well, you don't care. And that's why you haven't been posting anything. But I know Brother Wilson, James, he was talking about just kind of how there's wisdom in not posting every 5 seconds. While it is important, it shows that, you kind of have wisdom because you're making sure, like, are the things I'm posting about, are the hashtags I'm using, are these things that I'm supporting, are they pleasing to God? Like, he just talked about kind of figuring out the facts before you post things. But he still talked about, he thought it was important to post. But yeah, I really enjoyed his insight on that. Anybody want to comment on that?
I think that with social media, like, there's definitely two extremes. So there's like one like side that's like, okay, like now like that's all people post about. And then there's the other side of people not posting at all. I think it's easy for some people to assume that people's silence is it's agreeing with the issue, but sometimes people's silence merely means that they're not ready to post and that they're not quite informed as they should be. And so I think we definitely shouldn't be like slandering anyone for not posting, because they just might not know exactly how they feel about it, or they might not know exactly like, okay, I'm not sure how to convey my thoughts quite yet. And even it was interesting, one of the members of our social media team at our church met with me and my mom about some of the issues that are going on, just to like kind of get perspective from us. Just like, okay, so like how should I word this? Or what does this mean? Like, what's the background of this particular idea? What's the background of this holiday? Like, what do these things mean? And just kind of getting insight from African Americans and, hearing their perspective. I think that's really important. And just to also just stay informed about what you're posting, and not just kind of posting whatever you see, but also being aware and educating yourself before you start making stances or before you start saying certain things that may not necessarily be completely wholesome. So there's definitely a lot of aspects to social media and posting it, especially about these types of things and during this time. But at the same time, there's a lot. It's just interesting. You have to think of, how would Jesus approach this? Like, how would he gently approach this? Would he slander people, or would he gently, explain and back his word with what his statements are? So I think those are definitely things to keep in mind when posting on social media about things of this manner.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know, going off of what Micah said, for me, it took me like a few days to put all my words together and my thoughts for what to say in my posts. So for everyone, it might take a little longer. Not everyone has like a way with words like other people do. And also, I think that some people were just pressured to post. Like, they didn't really, feel a certain way about the issue, but because there was such a big, thing about it on social media, they felt pressured. But in real life, they didn't really feel the need or see the problem. So I think that it's important not only to post, but to be informed and take action and address racism in your surroundings if you notice it or if you see it as well.
We have a fellow white sister that did, on her story, she had it's the questions where you can have people, add comments. So she said, what is it? I can't remember her exact wording, but she's basically saying, what can I do as a white woman to just hear your experiences? So if you have questions about what's going on, maybe you don't have an exact stance on this side or this side, but it's good to ask questions and hear from other people's experiences. Also, I want to talk about those who do remain silent, but then they will comment on other people's stuff. If someone says Black Lives Matter, they'll be like, oh no, all lives matter. but they won't say anything, you know, concerning that. I kind of have a problem with that, because it's like you're not trying to hear, you know, someone else's story and be empathetic to their experiences. So you have to kind of be careful there. If you're silent, but then you're attacking someone else's stance as well, then I have a problem with that. So just be open to asking questions, hearing people's stories. I think that's a good approach.
Yeah, a lot of people feel like because it's not something that they haven't experienced, or it's not an experience at all, which is not true. Like some of us, we haven't experienced racial profiling and like to the magnitude that other African American people or Black people have faced, but that doesn't mean that it's not an existent problem.
Yeah, if I can just piggyback on the King sisters, I feel that sometimes for me, the issue when it comes to people not posting, now I understand not having the words and things like that, but I feel like if you are an influencer and you are on top all the time with certain issues, and you're, you know, and then your feed, you have so much influence, you have such an influence where you could just, you know, make one statement to help someone else go dig for themselves, not even take a stand, you don't even have to take a stand, more so like, how do you feel about this, or have you guys seen this, and just force people to go educate themselves. I feel like we have that responsibility. I feel like influencers have that responsibility. When you put yourself as an influencer, you know, on social media, that is your responsibility, especially as a Christian, to help those who are following you dig deep into those things. So for me, that's when I have an issue with that. And then on top of that, other, you know, people on Instagram or things like that, I've read a lot of people's statements. I've read a lot of people's, you know, stories, testimonies, and some I agree with, some I didn't. And I feel where I see the disconnect for me is that sometimes you don't have to state it. Sometimes it's go talk to your friend group. Sometimes it's go to the people who you are directly connected to, because your words can easily come off as unempathetic, come as harsh, come as dismissive or anything, because it's social media. But if you know that where your heart is, you can be better beneficial instead of trying. I feel like sometimes us in the church, we feel like we have the word. Everybody needs to hear this word. You know, like everybody needs to hear this word. This is the stance that everybody needs to take. Maybe that's the stance that you communicate with those who are directly, you know, tied to your influence in your youth group, in your hyphen group, your friend group. Maybe talk to your pastor, and then it will, I feel like, alleviate some of the rifts that we have, where, did you see what sister so-and-so said, or did you see what brother blah blah said? And I'm not saying we shouldn't post things that can be controversial or that sometimes people won't agree with. We should post, you know, but restraint, there's wisdom in restraint at times. Timing as well. When do you say this? If the first thing you say to a person who is emotional is get out of your feelings, I'm pretty sure that person is not going to receive you very well, you know. So timing of everything, and then being wise of what you say and when you say it and who you say it to. Not everything needs to be on social media. And then also, but if you are one of those people who post all the time, at least start a conversation so those who are, you know, following you can go dig for themselves if you're not comfortable taking a stand yet, you know.
Okay, so here's my whole thing towards it. And I've never really been like too outspoken about this topic, which I should be, but I know I posted this one post on my Instagram story, and it basically said like, we never said all lives didn't matter. Of course, all lives matter, but we're focusing on Black lives right now because we're in danger. And somebody, I'm not gonna say who, but you know, it was a white guy. He slid up and asked me, "How am I in danger?" Like I wanted to. It's like everything in me. I'm like, what do you mean? Okay, specifically, if we're talking specifically about me, like, no, I'm not in danger. Like, but I like the Bible talks about us being sober-minded and watchful. I've seen this one Black girl. She had made a post basically seem like, all my white friends who are friends with me, if you're not saying anything about this, you might as well block me and delete me. See, that I think that's wrong. Like,
even if they're not saying anything, I don't know, this is just my opinion. Even if they're not saying anything, I feel like that don't mean they're not supportive. They just probably don't know what to say, or they just want to be careful and not post the wrong thing. You see what I'm saying?
I feel like this is coming to a shock to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's coming to a shock to everyone, even for people who probably have not even thought about it. So now that there's light being like shed on it, I feel like they're like in this shock state. And I feel like I would rather someone not say anything than say something because they feel pressured to, or just say it because they want to just bandwagon because everyone else is doing it and not actually mean what they say and understand what they're saying. Because I do feel like there's a lot of people, like, just recently, like, I don't mind, like, you know, people shouting me out and everything, but since this whole thing, I didn't know how I should feel about, you know, the whole, oh, if you want to diverse, like, you know, have more diversity on your feed, you should follow this girl and this girl, like, you know, and it's just like, so you're only following me because you want to just say that you have a Black girl on your feed. Like, get to know me as a person. Like, you know, I'm a person too. I'm not, like I said before, I don't want to be like your poster Black person, your Black girl. And I feel like it's very important to just take the time to understand what you're saying before you say it. And like for me, like, I have white friends and not all of them have posted something, but we have talked about it like in person. And I know they're not racist. And just because, you know, you don't post something on your social media doesn't mean, oh, you're canceled. You're canceled. Like this whole cancel thing, like I personally don't agree with that, because I always like, I think, you know, God's not going to cancel us. Regardless, racism is sin. We all sin, and God's not going to cancel us. Sometimes you just have to go about it in like grace, and you know, because that's just what God has done for us. I'm not saying that for the ones that are posting negativity and not, you know, just saying, oh, the whole all lives matter thing. If you can't say that Black lives matter, then you're saying that you're not, all lives don't matter.
I completely agree. I actually had gotten off. I was personally very overwhelmed after the George Floyd video had came out. By just all the talk on social media, and I know how much I can handle. So personally, I had chosen to take a step back and stay off so I didn't have to see everything. But since I've been back on, I do appreciate people speaking out about it. And I've actually really enjoyed seeing other African American girls speak out about their experiences on social media. And I feel like social media is a great place to learn, because I mean, we're all on and we're all on Instagram. So white people that are out there that actually had no clue that racism was still going on right now, I think to an extent it can be good of people like sharing. Now, I have seen people as well that have overshared, and I have seen people like Dee said, who have said, oh, well, if you're not posting anything, then, you know, don't try to contact me, or you can take me off your Instagram and stuff like that, which I think that is a little overboard. But it's been really good to see other girls say things like, you know, it's not okay to tell a Black girl that she's pretty for a Black girl, or that she's an inside out Oreo. That's things that like I got as well. I felt like I was the only one that experienced these things, so I always stayed quiet about it. Even though I didn't like it, even though it hurt me, I was just like, well, I'm just not going to say anything about it, because they just won't get it. They won't get how that's hurtful to me. Or, okay, y'all, I cannot sing at all. And people are always so surprised that I cannot sing like a Black girl. And I'm like, what? That's rude. I mean, not all Black people sing, you know, not all white people sing. Not all Mexican people sing. So, I mean, it was different little things like that. And so I started seeing, I actually saw a post that had said things to not say to a Black girl. And everything that the post had said had been things that had been said to me. And I was like, wow, I cannot believe, like, okay, other people get these things as well. And I'm like, man, I hope every white person sees this so they know, even if they're not meaning it in a hurtful way, but that they know, hey, that's hurtful to a Black person. So I think that with social media, I'm glad that it's been, how do you say it? I'm glad that the light has been shed on this whole situation, so that people know. And I think that it really will help. And of course, there's your trolls that occasionally will swipe up and say rude things or very ignorant comments. But I feel like we're always going to have those, unfortunately.
I want to piggyback kind of off of what she said. And I want to take it from the stance of somebody who like doesn't post on social media that much, because that's me. Prior to all this happening, I was off of social media for a solid like month and a half because quarantine was just kicking my butt, and I hopped back on and I was just like instantly overwhelmed because there was just so much hate, so much frustration. I had friends showing their true colors. I had friends that were attacking friends showing their true colors. And I was just like, I don't know what to say. I want to cry every time I read a post. Like, I don't know about this. But for me, the best like impact, I guess I could say that I had was taking a step away from my social media and letting, like, I guess myself in real life, let the proof be in the pudding, and me going out and having conversations, talking to different churches, talking to different friends groups, going out to protest, stuff like that. That was what worked for me. And I say that because, like I said, I'm not a person. I don't have a good social media presence. I have like 8 followers, probably. Who knows? And so, like, for me, it's like, yeah, I can post it, but it's the same 8 people that are saying the same thing that I'm saying. And so, for those people who aren't necessarily social media savvy or tech savvy, go out and let your proof be in the pudding, because that is truly what matters. Because I also have people who have posted tons of stuff, but their real life is not a reflection of what they posted on the internet. And that, I feel like, is more sad than you making posts every day out of the week. So, amen. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think when this all first kind of started, and I don't think it was even as, I guess, much or as loud as when everything happened with Ahmaud Arbery, but I did notice kind of a shift in social media as soon as that happened, which I thought was important. I think it's important that we're talking about this and we're not just sweeping it under the rug, because that's, when we keep kind of acting like a problem that exists doesn't exist, that's when it keeps happening. Like, we can't just act like these things aren't going on just because they're not going on in your church or your city or your state even. Maybe you're just not hearing about it. But I thought that was really cool. There was a lot of, I follow like a lot of different gospel artists, and I noticed a lot of them were talking about it, speaking out about it. A lot of pastors, they were going live. And then as soon as everything kind of hit the fan, I guess you could say, with George Floyd, it was like your entire feed of everything is bombarded with this. And for some people, I'm sure that was, overwhelming, or maybe they didn't know what to say. Some people, of course, they kind of are on the other extreme and they act like it's not a problem. It doesn't matter. They want to preach at you, well, all lives matter. And like, you're right, they do, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So maybe don't post that underneath someone's picture, just because you're going to get attacked. There's no point for that. You're just wasting your time arguing. I'm sure people don't have anything to do right now because of quarantine. So they're like, well, let's get into a little social media argument today. That'll be fun, won't it? But I think it's important to have wisdom. That's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about how there is a real issue in the Black community, and we want to make sure that we're using our voices to speak against that and to make sure that we're not a part of the problem. And so, when some people post certain kinds of things, it can be telling, unfortunately, you can kind of see people's true colors, like Mariah said, which is sad. And so, maybe we kind of distance ourselves from some people because they're not sympathetic to the problem. They don't seem to care. But I thought it was also important, to reach out to your friends as well and to see how they're doing. Me and Micah, whenever we kind of met up pretty soon after everything started getting crazy, in our city, and we just talked about it. We had a conversation for like 2 hours where we just sat there in the car and we really talked. And you know what? It didn't get heated at all. Neither of us were yelling at each other. We weren't arguing. We weren't like, well, you just don't understand. Like, we were like, yeah, you're right. Like, this is the problem. We got to fix it. And, you know, we were talking about doing like a prayer walk where we were going to sing and get like a big group together and just, you know, kind of bring like positivity and love into our cities rather than hate, which is also important, you know, getting in your cities. And that's a good way to get people to your churches too, which is what I've noticed is in this time, especially, people are trying to find a church to go to because they need hope. Because, you know, it started off with everybody was kind of so hopeless with this coronavirus. And then now with all of this racial unrest and tension, everybody's like, man, like I need some sort of hope in my life. And so this is an important time for us to get out and invite people like to our churches and show the love of Christ.
Conversation is the most effective way to be able to see people's perspectives, and it's not by bickering and fighting and getting heated, because there's not going to be any type of efficiency in that conversation. It's not even a conversation, you're just fighting, and no one's going to be able to hear anyone's thoughts. No one's going to be able to, you know, say, oh, maybe I can, you know, maybe I see where you're coming from, I see your perspective. Like, having conversation is crucial, especially with things of this manner, because it's like, if you don't just talk about it, they're not going to get anywhere, because you're going to be fighting, you're going to be disagreeing, and there's not going to be any type of, okay, let me level myself. Like, let me see and try to understand a little bit of what you're talking about. And then maybe I can understand the issue a little bit better just because I'm hearing someone's experience rather than hearing all these voices that are not, that are very subjective. So yeah, conversation is very important, and it's the most effective way to be able to reach a type of consensus when it comes to these types of issues.
And I think it's important to kind of start young as well. You know, a lot of us anyways are kind of working with children or have something where we can, you know, speak to the younger generation. I know some of us work with youth, some of us work with kids. And so it's important, you know, to make sure that we're helping to educate, making sure that we're being inclusive of everybody, you know, like do all the kids, you know, that are singing on the platform in kids church, do they all look the same? You know, do they all have the same backgrounds? Like, am I helping to perpetuate this problem without even realizing it? And just like, you know, really think about those things. Because it really does start with when we're young, whether we realize it or not. So, you know, we don't have to be a history teacher to help educate children or even our friends, you know, because some of us, maybe we have friends that are, you know, ignorant to what's going on. And that's why they're saying these broad statements, or that's why they're getting into arguments. It's really just because no one ever taught them. So they're just kind of talking without really knowing what they're talking about, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say something related to that. Like, as parents, I'm not a parent, but you all need to like have conversations with your children at home and just educate them on different cultures and different things happening in the world. I've worked in all Black schools, and I've worked in schools where I was the only Black person and everyone else was white. And those kinds of schools, it's very telling, like the conversations that children have at home. I've had kids ask me, why am I so dark? I had one student, he was a little boy, he tried to like wipe my face with the tissue to see if like the skin color would come off. So it's very telling, like the conversations that are not happening at home and the conversations that are happening at home. And I think it's very important to just, even, I'm not saying like move out of your community and go to a mixed community with different cultures, but try to educate your children on the different cultures of this world, because that's our world consists of people of all colors. So just talk to them about the issues that are happening around the world so that they're educated.
Yeah, and like for me, I've been, the daycare where I'm at now, I've been for the past 4 years, and I've been the only Black teacher there. So actually, like yesterday, I was having a conversation with one of the little girls, and it came up somehow. She was talking about the color of my skin, and I asked her, am I the only Black person you know? She said, yeah, you are. So I know like a lot of kids that live in like all white areas, they don't have exposure to Black people. So what they see is what they see on TV or what their parents tell them about Black people. So it's very important to, in some way, expose your children to other races so that they don't just see people who look like them, but they understand how to interact with people of other colors. Because like a lot of the kids in the daycare ask me all the time, why is your skin brown? Why is your skin brown? And I try to tell them that's the way that God created me. You know, God created us all beautiful, and for diversity, he made some people brown, he made some people white. So, you know, it's just important to have these conversations with kids because they notice. I mean, some things they are innocent of, but they notice that by a certain age, they notice skin color. So it's important to have these conversations.
Yeah, and you can't, I know some people say like, I don't see skin color, but I'm not sure I ascribe to that type of thought. I feel like we do see skin color. I'm Black. It's a part of who I am. And if kids can see it after a certain age, then I know that adults see it as well when they see me. If you were to describe me, you would describe me as a Black woman. So it's just having conversations that, you know, like she said, people are different. God made us all different. And that's what makes us as a human race beautiful, because no one is exactly the same.
Going off of that just a little bit, it's so important to to have these conversations with kids or like expose them to different cultures when they're young, because that's when like most of you guys work with kids. I work with kids too, but like a lot of their really like big development is happening when they're young, when they're little. And so they're, you know, being exposed to these different things. And like, if you expose them to different cultures, like just kind of letting them see like, oh, this is interesting. This is so different, but it's also so beautiful. Like I had the privilege to travel a lot when I was younger, and I was able to see different types of cultures. And that was really something that kind of shaped me to who I am. And it's a really important aspect of like the fact that I grew up in a multicultural school and a multicultural church. And even though I grew up in Detroit, like I still like was exposed to different types of cultures and different types of religions. And I just think it's really important to like be informed and to teach your kids like, hey, there are different types of people, but they have cool cultures. They have different types of food. They might have a different type of religion. And that's a beautiful thing about humanity. It's that we have our differences, but they're also very beautiful and they make us unique. And just reinforcing that to young kids is so important, because I mean, kids are smart. Kids are so smart. Like it's crazy. I'm sure all of you guys know this, like even little kids are super smart, and they notice little things that are going on. They even notice certain like social cues or character types of things that are shown through through persona or things like that. So it's really important just to kind of inform little kids in like the little ways you can, not be heavy, but obviously there's very gentle ways to teach kids these things. But I mean, getting them exposed young is gonna really like affect just however they are, their environment when they're young will affect how they behave when they're older.
Yeah, and if I could piggyback on Micah and the McCains as well, I feel like if we move away from the I don't see color thing, a lot of our issues would be resolved. If we really appreciate the color, oh my gosh, appreciate the story behind it, then you can appreciate me as a human. And I feel like that's something adults have to learn too. And I know some people who say that, they mean well. I don't see color. They're trying to say, I am not a racist, and I understand that. But it's important for you to see my color, because if you don't see color, you do not see me. You do not see my experience. You do not know how to properly address my what I come with, you know, and no, we don't all come with the same things. However, like she said, it's what makes me beautiful and makes me unique. And that's every race, every culture, everything. If we learn to celebrate these things and not diminish them or hide them or try to blanket white, like, oh, we're all one, you know, yes, we are all one. When I say that, I mean, don't make it seem like, you know, there's nothing different. If we see the differences, we'll know how to coexist. We'll know how to let diversity be a strength. and not like something to be afraid of. You know, it's okay for me to have a culture that is different from yours, because now I have something to connect with you about and share. You know, I have a conversation to give you a piece of me, and now you've left with some of me and I've left with some of you. But if you deny that part of my existence, there's no way you can connect with me. And I feel like if adults get that, kids will get that. If the school system, that's a whole nother conversation. If the school system will get that, really, really. You know, I work with children too. Like, and I have a passion for children. I work in children's ministry and all that stuff. And I told you guys I work with youth, so I care about the things behind the scenes as well. But if we can move to just appreciating how deliberate God was in making us different and celebrating that, then, you know, so much of what we are afraid of from what makes us different would really diminish. I completely piggyback on what y'all said. Absolutely.
Back to what we were saying about, I think Asia was saying about just the list that people were posting on Instagram. I had posted something that's just things that were said to me, and I was actually kind of glad that I did. I was hesitant at first because I was like, do I really want to just like do this? Because like I was nervous, but I ended up putting up there, and I would say it was a good thing because some of the people that have actually said those things to me just came to me like genuinely and apologized, like, you know. And I know that some majority of those things that were said to me, like they're pretty for a Black girl, they never said it to be hurtful, or it's just kind of like they don't think about what that does to us and when they do say those things. So just, I wasn't like, you know, reaching out for an apology, but just having, you know, people come to me and say that they're sorry, it kind of really did mean something to me. And because not everyone's gonna get an apology for everything, but just hearing it from your friends just shows that they actually really care and that they want to understand and they want to learn.
I think that that's so important as well. And like I said earlier, you know, my our kids program at church, you know, it was very predominantly Black for a long time. A lot of them, they kind of looked similar to each other, and they could identify with each other, but they would say things to me like, oh, I wish I looked like you. I wish I had your hair, whatever. And I think it's important to encourage young Black girls, young Black boys, tell them, you're beautiful. You have beautiful hair. You don't need my hair. You have your hair, and your hair is beautiful. And I think that's so important because, you know, kids, they kind of pick things up maybe from their parents, from their relatives, from TV. You know, if you don't see somebody that looks like yourself on TV, you kind of think like, well, maybe I'm ugly, you know, maybe I'm not pretty. Maybe that's why I don't see people that look like me on TV. Or, you know, just little subtleties that are in society. And I think it's important that as educators, especially as, you know, white, or, you know, if you're not Black, you need to make sure that Black kids know you're beautiful. I recognize who you are as a person, but I also recognize what you bring to the table. And I also think it's important, you know, when we're praying for kids, that we're not just like, God, like help them to get the Holy Ghost, which is important, of course, but kind of encouraging them as you pray with them. That's something that we would always do in our kids program is, you know, God, help them to see like that you have a plan for their life. Help them to see that they're beautiful. Help them to see that they're talented. You know, help them to see that you're going to help them to become, you know, bigger than what they realize they could be, and kind of just speak into their lives, you know, as a teacher, as an educator, and make sure that they know that they're valued. Because I think oftentimes, you know, kids are kind of overlooked until they get to a certain age, you know, or we overlook these conversations because they're not ready, or we don't think they're ready, you know. But I think, like Micah said, kids are a lot smarter than we think, and we all know this because, you know, we all work with them. But I think it's so important to just make sure, and if you see these things, if you see people treating your kids, you know, differently, you gotta, hey, that's not okay. You know, those are my kids, and I'm with those kids every Sunday and every Wednesday, and you're not gonna say something like that to them. I'm gonna make sure that these kids are being treated the right way. because if we don't do it, somebody else might not. And we want to make sure that they're, protected, and that they see that there's more to them than what society maybe tells them. So yeah, I think it really does start at a young age. And it's kind of the job of educators and parents to take that stance and make sure that we're not continuing the problem.
Like, I was just thinking about the conversation we were having like a week or when we got bubble tea, but we were like talking about like these issues, and I was telling Kate that like I didn't get that much representation of Black women when I was a kid. Like the only thing I had was like That's So Raven, and she was like light skinned and had wigs and her hair was straight, and I like didn't see the darker skin, I didn't see the curly hair, and I for years I didn't think I was beautiful because my skin was darker, and I wish I had lighter skin, I wish my hair was lighter, I wish I had light eyes. And I even thought that like I couldn't, because I wanted to be an actress for years, and I even did musical theater in high school, but I thought when I was a kid like that I couldn't be an actor, or that I couldn't be an actress because all the actresses I saw were white. And even though there were Black films and stuff, like the things that I was seeing, like the children's films and stuff, like there were no Black women. So it's so important to reinforce to these young Black girls and young Black boys that you are so beautiful, your features are amazing, and you have so much richness in who you are, and just reinforcing to them like you are beautiful, and just giving them those affirmations, because if they don't get them, then they're just going to be insecure for years and years and years, and it'll take them more and more and more years to get out of that mindset. So it's so important to reinforce to young kids, especially when they're little, like you are beautiful, you are worth it, you are incredible, you have so much potential, you're going to do great things. And just letting them know like just because you look different doesn't mean that you can't excel. You can still excel, but you're just different. You have different things to bring to the table, and you have a different experience. So it's so important to reinforce to kids their beauty and their worth when they're young, especially Black kids, because Black kids don't get it as much as they should, and they even see the societal ideal beauty of like the straight hair and skinny and super light skin, and they see that and they're like, well, what about me? I'm not that. I'm the opposite of that. So it's important to let these kids know you're beautiful, you're amazing, and you're going to do awesome in your life.
Yeah, and it's important that we kind of help with what we're showing kids as well. I think I shared a post from an educator that she shared a bunch of books with diversity to read to her class. She's an educator, and so she was like, these are 12 different books or something like that that I read to my class. And you're making sure that you are helping with that representation as well. So if you're going to show your kids a movie, make sure that it's not just one type of person in there. Make sure that there's like a lot of different looking people. Make sure that we're reading books where it's not just one race or one type of person. Because kids pay attention to that. Maybe they won't say it out loud, but they'll be thinking like, I don't see anybody in there that looks like me. That's important that we grow up seeing ourselves on TV, and that or movies or books or whatever, you like to watch or listen to. But it's important that we're helping with that representation. And obviously that's a way bigger issue with what Hollywood or Disney Channel or whoever wants to present, and that I still think it is a problem. I just took a Black history class this year. We were talking about representation, and I was like, it is interesting. We kind of don't really have a lot of representation on TV right now for children or youth. It's mostly all adult content, which obviously children and teens can't watch. And it is important, and that's not necessarily something that we can fix overnight, but we can choose what we want to show children, and we can choose the toys that we give to kids. We can, what I'm saying? We can choose what we show to the kids that we get to work with, or our future children. So it's important that we're helping with representation and making sure that our kids know that diversity is beautiful, and you can learn something from every person that you become friends with. I've learned a lot just from this conversation. So I think there's a lot more to be done, but this conversation is giving me hope with our future educators and our future teachers. Because it's clear that we all agree that there's more to be done, and we want to make sure that those things are being done. So that's really special. Okay, so the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about, which we kind of already discussed a little bit, but just supporting Black women and being an ally as a friend, a person who isn't a person of color. You know, what can we do to make sure that we're being an ally and we are being supportive?
I think it kind of goes back, somebody said, I don't remember who it was, but kind of just like, don't pretend like it's not happening. From a lot of my friends that are not Black, from them, like, they're always like, okay, what can I do? What do you want me to do? I'm like, there's no like grand gesture that you're going to do that's just going to be like, yeah, you did that and I know you're an ally. Like, it's a lifestyle that has to become. Like, I need you to be there. I need you to, when you're in a conversation with somebody and they say something backwards, not to just laugh it off and pretend like it's not happening. Like, say something, call that person out in the name of Jesus. Do it with love and kindness, but call that person out, because it's not going to change if you just pretend like it's not happening. And I feel like sometimes people think that's like a basic principle, but you would be surprised how many people, when you're not sitting right next to them, are not being as loudmouth allies as they are when you're sitting right next to them, where you can see them over a screen or something like that. So I guess, like, in the private settings, like, practice what you preach. Keep that same energy, as the kids say, and like, stand up, be an ally.
I think that, first of all, that's right on. Being an ally, practice what you preach. And I think just to see you, and I'm not saying you, I'm just see that friend commit to the journey of unlearning certain things and undoing certain biases, undoing certain prejudices, and being okay with like asking uncomfortable questions like, when I say this, how does that come across? And I don't feel like I would be offended if someone asked me that, because I feel like you care, you want to know. So I just like seeing the intentional commitment to the journey of undoing certain prejudices that maybe you didn't even know you had. There's a lot of things to do to help you become anti-racist, but you don't know, all the time what those things are. And it's okay. You're going to mess up a lot. It's going to happen where you are just, this is who you've been. You didn't think that it was causing any harm or anything like that. So I just feel like what our sisters in Christ who are not of color can do to show that they are allies is to just keep rediscovering certain things and being open to when someone is pointing, hey, when this thing happens, it hurts me. And ask yourself, do I do this even just subtly? Do I do this? Do I, put this on someone else, even just a little bit? And that commitment to change in yourself is, for me, enough.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what they said. Acknowledgement is definitely key. Like, just acknowledging, like, during this time that there is a problem can mean a lot to a Black friend or a Black ally. But if you pretend that nothing is happening and you ignore what's going on right now, that could be seen as you not caring or you dismissing the problem. So acknowledgement is definitely important.
I also think another important aspect that goes along with acknowledgement is listening and coming to the conversation, not to say, this is my opinion, this is what I feel about this, but coming to the conversation saying, okay, I'm here to listen, tell me your experience, just give me some background, and let me just sit here and be your friend and not come with any types of presuppositions or ideas that are coming from, thought patterns that I've had before, but just coming to the conversation saying, I'm here to listen, tell me what's your experience, and I'm going to stand by you through every step of the way.
I think one of the things that people can do is start with the small things, like the small little racist comments that maybe they don't think is racist, like things that we've already said tonight, like things that, oh, you're pretty for a Black girl, or you talk white, or things like that. I feel like that's where some people can start, like by eliminating those things from their mouth, from their vocabulary. I think that would help a lot. And then just getting maybe a little more educated.
Also, just like you said, the little comments as well, like just the stereotypes of things. The watermelon stuff has got to stop.
Oh, Lord.
That has to stop.
The fried chicken.
All that has got to stop. Has got to stop. But and also just it might not mean, you know, anything to you, but like if you're someplace and like, especially when it comes to the hair, if you see a Black girl wearing her natural hair, just know that it did not come easy for her. So go out of your way and say, wow, like I like your hair. Like even if you think it, it's going to mean the world to her to just, if you go to her and compliment her on that. Because there's a lot of work that goes into it. And just to like, not saying that we do our hair for compliments, but because it's not accepted, like, you know, when you go out, just having someone that, you know, in the grocery store, oh wow, your hair looks nice, that just means the world to.
And most people may not agree with me with this, but this is just how I personally feel. It also starts with us too, as you know, Black people, because I know a lot of Black apples Black apostolics that use the N-word. I know plenty of them. It starts with us, and they use it, you know, with their white friends too, and that's not okay. Because if we don't want white people saying it to us, we shouldn't be using it either. That's how I feel. I mean, you know, a lot of people may not agree with me, but I mean, it definitely does start with us too. And you know, in some categories, like we need to just forget about that word and not use it amongst each other.
I think it has, yeah, like you said, it's not just white, it's everyone. Everyone just has to change their mindset. Like I have to change my mindset that if I'm in a room with a white girl, that just the thought that, oh, she's gonna be prettier than me. I need to have this thought that, you know, we're all beautiful. We're all, you know, made in God's image and all of that. And it does, I know there has been times, like, you know, that I haven't even been accepted by like Black people because, you know, I'm like too white or I'm not actually Black. Like, you know, I've heard that comment too. And especially when it comes to like, you know, Black, I when people ask me like, what's my type, I don't say, oh, like I literally, like if I tell you the people that I've talked to, they're Black, white, different races, like, you know. So it's just hearing, especially, so this is, I guess this is to like the Black men, the Black guys out there, like, you know, it's, I feel like it's, they have an important role as well in changing all of this, that just because if you're with your white friends or your white boys, do not degrade Black girls.
Right.
Do, you know, say, oh no, I don't like Black girls, I only date white girls, because they're going to follow that example that you set. Like, you know, because that's been something too. And it's just like, a Black woman birthed you into this world and you're saying that you don't like Black girls? Like, that just never,
right.
I'm not saying that everyone has to, I, like, you know, I know Adria was saying that people were saying that you think you should stay in your race. I don't agree with that. I feel like if I like a Black person, then I could be the Black person. If I like a white person,
Exactly.
I could be, it doesn't matter, like, you know? So just the fact that you're saying, oh, I don't like Black girls, like, what about is so that just never made sense to me at all. Exactly. And especially when it came to like, you know, colorism, like the different shades, that's always been like a thing for me. Just like, oh, I like Black girls, but I only like the Black girls that look like this, that's light skinned and has like, you know, it's just like, well, what about us, like, you know, kind of thing. So it's just really, it's taken a lot for me, like I said before, to get to the place that I am, that's like, you know, if you can't appreciate me for what I look like and for who I am, then you're obviously just not meant to be in my life. I'm not going to change, you know, who I am to fit your standard of beauty. But yeah, so I would definitely say, like, you know, it starts with all of us.
I agree. That's really good. You know, like not coming to the conversation all fired up, ready to argue, but just coming and being ready to learn some things that we learned in our childhoods, that we didn't really realize that we learned, you know. And yeah, also like Mariah was saying, I think it was Mariah that said it, just with your friends, with your family, kind of checking them too, making sure. I used to work at a place where people would openly use racial slurs, and I'm like, why are you saying that? You know, like, don't say that around me. And they're like, why? It doesn't matter to you. And I'm like, it does matter to me. Don't say it again. Like, or, you know, I might have to take it to the manager. I don't want to, you know, be that guy, but like, that's not appropriate. I don't want to hear people saying that. I don't want it to be around me. I don't want my good to be evil spoken of, because I'm definitely not saying that. You know, and if you kind of hear somebody in your friend group saying something they don't realize could be taken as offensive, could be taken as racist, like just check them. Like, you don't have to be all public about it, but just being like, hey, you know, next time don't say something like that, because that's not appropriate. You know, that could be taken offensively, or it is offensive and you don't want to say that again. But I think, you know, it's important to use your voice and speak out if you see injustices happening, even in your own friend groups or in your own families. Because I think sometimes people they feel uncomfortable. They're just like, they laugh it off. But if we're laughing it off, like, are we helping or are we harming? Are we adding to the problem? Just, you know, just something to think about.
I'm gonna say one last thing for anybody who's like watching this, who feels very tied to the movement and very, you know, emotionally invested in our leaders, whatever. I would just, one last tidbit of advice, and this is something too that my pastor in Tampa and my old pastor from Atlanta has said, and even from the talk that the youth ministers had, is to do research thoroughly on organizations before you align yourself with them, because we can't forget this world does not love us. It does not love Christians. So with that being said, it may seem like a friend, but at the back there's an agenda that is completely anti-Christ, anti what we stand for, what we believe in. So to save yourself and those who are connected to your influence, just please, I beg everybody, just do research. You know, be really, really intentional about who you align with. Even people who have really good statements, really good quotes, you know, on social media, and you repost it. Do research before you even support them, because even them can go back and it can bite you, because they also support other crazy things. So just be careful with who you align yourself with, and don't let your, like you said, don't let your good be spoken evil of. You know, just be careful, because this world does not love us, and it does not care for God. So we have to make sure that we are the light, you know, and not letting something contaminate what we stand for.
So the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about is my sister and I, we always talk about, we think it's so important to celebrate with others, specifically with other women, because, you know, you can go on any social media site and see people tearing each other down. Specifically women, you know, for some reason, it's kind of something that we're invertly, like, we're just kind of thinking, or whatever the word is, I don't even know if that was a word or not. We just kind of think like we're competing with other women, you know, for some reason. It's like this very subtle thing of like, I got to do what she's doing, or I'm not doing enough, or that girl's not doing as much as me. And we always talk about how we really value people that are able to celebrate with us. And that's why me and my sister are so close, because sometimes friends are not able to celebrate with you. You know, maybe on the outside, they're kind of like, good job, but they're not really there for you. They're not really supporting what you're doing. You know, even, you know, for her book, you know, there were some friends that were kind of like, cool, you have a book, you know. But I always make sure that I'm, you know, being really supportive of her, just, you know, because she's my sister too, but also just because I respect what she's doing as a woman. And so I think in these times especially, it's so important to be supportive of other women and to, you know, be a friend, even if you don't know them personally, you're just a friend on social media. Don't subscribe to that, like, women are competing with women stereotype mantra, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, so I just think, you know, like, for the ones of you that have music, like, let's support their music. Let's not listen to it and be like, oh yeah, it's not as good as my song, like, I'm gonna put out a song that's better than that. Like, or, you know, somebody has a podcast, like, I don't know, I could do better than that podcast, or I could make better macaroons, even though I couldn't because I'm not good at baking. But you know what I mean? I think it's important to be supportive of other women, and especially vocally, like online, sharing each other's stuff, not just inwardly being like, I support that, but really going out of our way, like, hey, Micah, I really appreciate what you're doing. Hey, I really appreciate your song, whatever. So, anybody want to talk about just, supporting women or celebrating with each other?
I'll go first. So I come from that class. I'm always in a different class. It's weird. It's so weird. But I come from that class of people who a lot of times I've struggled with that. I've been that woman. I still kind of am that woman sometimes. It's like, I am not doing X, Y, Z. This friend has a podcast. This friend has a clothing line. This friend is about to be famous. Like, this is just amazing. What am I doing? I am doing all the legwork for somebody's choir right now. Like that's just my life. And it's been a hard road and a hard thing to deal with for me, because I feel like I'm not living up to the standard. And like, you kind of get that competition mindset, not intentionally because I want to compete, but like, you get that mindset. And so I feel like sometimes as Christian women, we have to remind ourselves that their journey is not our journey and their road is not our road. And we have to, like, I have to internalize that. I have to say it often, because it helps me to remember that, yes, they have all of that success. Yes, this is going good for their life, and I support that, and I love that for them, but that is not you, and that's not going to be you. And you don't need to stray away from what God has for you, because then you're going to miss your call. You're going to miss your moment. And so I just, like, we should always support our women. Of course, I feel like you need to be supportive even when it's not you. That's a super big thing for me, because like I said, that is me. It hasn't been me. It probably won't be me for a long time until I go get a doctorate or something. And that's okay with me. And I feel like it starts on the inside, that you have to tell yourself that I am okay with supporting these women, because the support that I give them and the love that I give them, in Jesus' name, it'll come back to me. But I won't know if I'm just so caught up in my own little bubble. So just to whoever is out there who maybe you aren't that woman that has all the things going for you, don't be discouraged. Support all of your friends, because you will see that in return, and your time is coming. So.
Yeah, and I want to add to that, like, I feel that, and oh my gosh, thank you for your transparency, right? That was very honest. And I feel like it happens to all of us, like, where you feel like, oh, well, what about me? And I feel like if you in yourself learn to appreciate the work that you're doing for God, and I mean, like, truly you're doing, it's only you can do. Like, I remember I went to this worship, God created the world with his voice. Like, there's certain sound waves that went out, right? And he talks about all of you singers out here, you have a specific voice. Things are activated that only your voice can do. And from there, I feel like that made me understand that what I do, only I can do. What they do, only they can do. Even if it's in the same domain, same field, whatever. If I'm doing the best that I can with what I have, God is being glorified, and I can appreciate it and not feel like I'm competing, because again, who is the glory for? It's not for me. Like, if you're competing with someone, and it happens, it's going to happen, we're all flesh, but you have to check yourself and ask yourself, what is it that you're actually competing for? Because if this person is glorifying God, what is it, where is the disconnect that you feel that you are not, you know what I'm saying? So if God's being glorified, then his will is being done, and it's all okay. Everybody's playing their part. Everyone is doing what they need to do. But again, I feel like that comes from understanding I appreciate the work that I do. I appreciate the gift that I have, and I know I'm doing my best. And supporting someone else does not take away from what I'm doing. And it doesn't, and it doesn't make them better than me or me better than them or anything like that. It actually make both of us better, because God is being glorified. And that's something, this is a conversation, like, I feel like you have to, like, have with yourself, because we are flesh, and it can happen where you just feel like, well, dang, I ain't doing nothing. And this person over here, they're barely trying, it can be that way, but just having those real honest conversations with yourself to realign your focus, realign what you're looking at.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, especially in this era of social media, it's hard not to think competitively at times, especially because you're like, oh my gosh, this person, like, they've been doing this for, like, only this time, and they're so successful, or this person gets more likes, this person has more followers. But it's really important to remember that, like, we as women, as Christian women, and as Black women especially, like, we are all heading towards the same goal, and, like, each milestone that we conquer, we're all conquering together. Like, it's a victory. A victory for me is a victory that we all have, or a victory you have is a victory that we all share together. And just also knowing and believing that you have God has a specific plan for your life, and you have a specific set of talents and of skills and of a specific set of perspectives that only you can bring to the table. And by putting your life into God's hands, that whatever his plans for your life are, they're far greater than your wildest dreams, and he will take you further than you ever thought you could go. And just by trusting in God, trusting in the fact that he's got you, that he's never going to leave you, that he's always going to provide for you, that he has an amazing plan for your life, just knowing that in him, like, there's so much more that you could experience, and by comparing yourself to others, you're limiting yourself. And just, I think it's so important to just remind yourself that we all are getting toward this goal of glorifying God, and for getting and breaking more racial barriers, and for succeeding in our own avenues and in our businesses and in our, you know, music careers. And it's just important to remember, like, the central goal of glorifying God and of doing the best we can, and of being content and excited and happy about the different things that we have, the different aspects we have to bring to the table, and by using our differences to propel us and to make our journeys, you know, more unique, and just being I'm trying to think of the word, just being content and your differences, and using those to glorify God, because he made you different, and just being able to, you know, your journey is very specific to you, and no one else can go walk your path, only you can. And because you have your specific things, you're your own self. So it's just important to keep the main goals in mind, to support each other, and to know that, you know, if I succeed, you succeed. And if we're glorifying God together, then that's the main thing that matters.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, pretty much what everyone said before. Supporting someone else or acknowledging what someone else is doing doesn't take away from what you're doing, or doesn't make it any less. And that's something that I definitely had to work on, and still am working on myself. Like Mariah said, you know, seeing what others are doing and not thinking that, oh, I'm not, you know, doing what they're doing because I'm on my own journey. And also another thing that I've had to work on is acknowledging people, like, out loud, because I internalize a lot of things, and like, I'll see somebody come out with a song and I'll play it, I'll listen to it, but I won't like post about it. But it makes like a big difference, you know, being an like artists ourselves. It makes a big difference when you see like the support, and it's definitely an encouragement. So it's something that I have to work on myself, you know, being more out loud about my support for others.
And if I could just add a little thing on that, for us who have started businesses or artists or released things, you don't realize how much it affects you until you do something like that. You don't realize how much someone that you felt supported you, how it affects you when they don't like comment or don't say something. How come I thought so-and-so was on my side? And it seems so petty, but really it is that dramatic. When you like somebody that you're connected to, and you've taken this big leap, you've taken this big step to put yourself out there, and the people that you feel like should hold you up, they don't. And I understand, but I really, really, really do oh, I love this song. Okay, that's a good song. Going about my business, you know, and not really sharing it. And that's why I've worked on really being intentional to let, especially apostolic artists, to support other apostolic artists, because one, it's already harder for us because we're apostolic, you know, and then music is hard in general. And to just really, really, really support and show my support, because I've been on the other end where I knew these people believed in me and, you know, believed in the gift that God has given me. But I saw, you know, nothing that said that. And it can really, you'd be surprised the kind of effect that can have unintentionally, you know. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I know I've definitely been guilty of that, like supporting silently, but not like acknowledging it publicly. So that's definitely something that I know that I have to work on myself.
I just feel like it's so sad how women nowadays, not even just women who aren't, you know, in church, but women who are in church too, like how we can't like support each other. I just feel like it's a lot of apostolics out there, just from my experience. When I be like, oh, like your dress is really pretty, where you get that from? They want to act like they forgot just so I can't have the same dress. Like, come on. Like, I can't look pretty too. I can't, you know, rock the same cute outfit. Like, it's just stuff like that. Like, somebody asked me where I got something from. They'd be like, oh, that dress is pretty. Oh, Kohl's or TJ Maxx, period, $5. Like, I'm letting them know so they can look good too. Like, that's the type of stuff. Like, we women, we supposed to build each other up. Okay, I can't talk. We're supposed to build each other up, not knock each other down or be negative towards one another. And I just can't stand that. It's just so sad that, you know, we have to be like that towards one another.
Well, I definitely agree with that as well. Just, I don't know why girls are like that. I'm not even going to say that I've never, ever thought that. Like, you know, it's always been, I don't know why we're like that. Why, I don't know. But back to it's something that we're all going to have to think about, all have to change if we want to see a change. Like, you know, we're going to have to work on ourselves too. Let's look at those ugly things that we don't like to know about ourselves and try to change those things, because if we can't expect to see a change in other people if we can't even change ourselves.
Right, exactly.
You know? So I know definitely, like, you know, I'll do my part, and especially just, I know, like, Asia and I, like, I mean, for me, like, I post like outfits and stuff, and I try to get back to everyone, and I don't like to just be that person that's like, oh, I'm gonna ignore you because, you know, I feel this and this, whatever. I'm gonna, even if I don't get back the day of or the second of, I try my hardest to get back to everyone, because I know there was times when I first started, like, you know, posting on Instagram with my outfits and stuff, I would reach out to people, like, you know, and I can scroll through and still find unread messages that they have not replied to me about. And it's just always just like, okay, I guess you don't want to respond to me, but that could just not be the case. But that is something that went through my mind. So I kind of take that as, okay, especially with younger girls too that reach out to me, I think it's very important to give them encouragement, and if they're asking my opinion in something, because, you know, we put ourselves in this position, like, you know, this is what we wanted to do, so we're gonna have to take all of it. We're gonna have to try to support as much people as we can, because that's what we're doing.
I agree with that. I agree with both of y'all. There's a quote that I saw a few years ago that I feel like really helped me. And I can't remember it exactly word for word, but basically it was along the lines of, if you see something in someone that you like, say it. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing that I had not a hard time intentionally, but I would always see a girl with a pretty dress on or see a cute Instagram post and I wouldn't comment. And I'd just be like in my head, like, oh, that's cute. And I'd like it and I keep scrolling. But I realized, okay, wait, I like when people comment on my stuff. I like when people tell me in person that my outfit is pretty or that I look cute. And I'm like, so if I like that, I know that everybody else would like that. So I've tried to make it a habit. If I see something in someone that I love, I speak on it. Or if I see an Instagram post that I like and I have the time, because a lot of times I am scrolling really quick. But if I have the time, I try to stop and say, hey, cute outfit, or at least leave hearts or something. If I see something I like in someone, especially another girl, I try to comment on that. So I think that's something that everybody could do. If you see something that you like in someone, say it. It'll make their day. It'll make them happy.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off of that, even with the YouTube game, like it's hard out here. There's not that many apostolic people that are doing YouTube, and so some people, you know, it's kind of hard to understand, like, why do you have a YouTube channel? Like, I have a lot of friends that are like, yeah, that's cool, but I have some friends that, you know, kind of like, oh, Kate has a YouTube channel, and it's like, you know, it's funny, but it's like, you know, like, I spend a lot of time on that. Like, you're kind of like, oh, well. But yeah, I think I really, it really makes a difference when you see people commenting or when you see people reposting your videos or your songs. It really does make a difference. You know, you might not even realize that just by sharing something and being like, hey, this really helped me, that you're also helping that person, because they're kind of that makes them feel like what they're doing, it isn't in vain. Like the Clark sisters. Is my YouTube channel in vain? Just kidding. But I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but it was really good. But I think sometimes it's easy to what we're doing, and like to see what we're doing or what we're putting out and think like, am I doing this for no reason? Like, does anybody care? Is anybody paying attention? And so as women especially, I think it's so important that we are lifting each other up rather than tearing each other down, and we're not subscribing to that comparative lifestyle, really, because it really can control our lives if we let it. Looking at other people and wondering like, why don't I have that? Why am I not doing that? And I just think that that's super important. And also I want to say, I do have an Apostolic music playlist. It's public on Apple Music, and it has all these people's music on it. It has Urshan's music. I just put the McCain sisters and their brother's new single on there. It's at the top. All I see is Victory. When Micah was talking about Victory, I was like, should we plug this song? Is this the time? But yeah, so just little things like that, posting on our stories, posting on our Facebooks, Twitters, whatever, just really encouraging each other. And even if you think it's small, to make sure that everybody knows that they're valued and that they have a place, in the kingdom. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on that. All right, so before we go, I just wanted everybody to take a chance to shout out kind of what they're doing, if they have any upcoming projects, anything like that.
So I just launched my business Dolce, and it's a pastry business. You can follow me on Instagram and on Facebook at dolce.by.mj. And I am also hopefully planning on releasing a single or a small EP by the fall. So stay tuned for that. So yeah. So I recently launched my own business called World Changer Studios. You can follow that on Instagram at _WC Studios. It is a music studio where I teach and train people in voice singing. I absolutely love it. I am also a recording artist. I am in Atlanta this weekend because I am finishing up my EP, my very first EP that should be released by fall this year, Unconquered EP. If you want to check out my latest single, Unshakable Faith, I released that in March. You can find me on Instagram at lifeaslee. That's LIFEAZLEE. Or just visit my website, widowlyncasmer.com, and then everything is there. So don't have to go to different places. But yeah, so that's what I do. That's what I have.
Well, we released a single today. It's called All I See Is Victory. You can find that anywhere on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, anywhere that you can get digital music. We released that today, so you can check that out, and we hope that you will enjoy it.
And if you want to follow our page on Instagram, it's The McCains, THEMCKAINS. I do graphic design on the side. It's not an official business, but it's something I've been doing for years. If you want to just message me on my regular Instagram page, and I do flyers, I do book covers, I do album covers, single covers, any type of graphic work you need. So just contact me through Instagram. My page is Violet Rose McCain.
I just really love God, and I'm really happy to be here. Like I said earlier, you can go check out Urshan's Spanish EP that just released. We also released 2 music videos and 2 singles. Go and check those out. They are amazingly done. And me personally, I am honestly just trying to finish my undergrad, so I don't personally have anything going on. But you guys go and support all of these women because they have amazing things going. I personally need to go pick up the slack and go buy singles and sign up for EPs and follow pages. So you guys do that for me. That would be the most amazing thing in the world.
You can find me on Instagram. My name is Asia, ASIAH.Angel, ANGELLE. And then I have a photography page that you can see all of my latest photography work on, which is Asia Angel Photography. So at Asia Angel Photography. And on my personal Instagram, I do fashion blogging, lifestyle blogging, and on my photography page, there's just all my latest work. And on both pages, you can find my photography website. So I'd love to see you there.
Mine's not that interesting, but I do usually cook dinner every other night. I do post like what I cook on my Instagram story. That's what I'm cooking like right now because I am hungry. You can follow me at Jaquel, JACQUEL.DEE. Not just the letter D, but DEE. And I just post like my food, what I cook, and like me in the process of decorating and stuff, my little place. So that's what I just be doing.
So you guys can find me at india.campbell. That's INDIA.CAMPBELL. I post a lot of my fashion, my outfits of the days, mostly on my stories. I do a lot of natural hair videos. I know currently I have braids in right now, but I'm always doing my wash and go routine on my stories, different hairstyles that if anyone's trying to go natural, I have all the products that I post. So yeah, you can go ahead and check that out as well.
I will have everybody's stuff linked down below, so you can just click on the links to everybody's music, everybody's social media, all that stuff. But once again, I just want to thank all of these women for taking the time out of their day to be with us. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys would take this time to sit down with someone that you're not really familiar with, you don't really know that well, and have a conversation like this. But I think it's so important, and I hope that if you're watching this, you learned something, and hopefully you can be a part of the solution, and just making this world a better place and showing more love and more positivity. So yeah, that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I have a lot more amazing guests coming on Girl Talk soon. Don't forget to check everybody out down below, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. It was great meeting all you guys and being here with you.
Nice meeting you as
Good to
well.
know you guys too.
Bye.
Bye.